right about now, exactly now, in fact, I'm supposed to be in Orlando, Florida, on a beach, at a resort, at a theme park. But April 20th, 2020, we're still in the midst of a global pandemic. So theme parks are closed, resorts are closed. They canceled our reservations for us, which left us no choice but to cancel our flights. The flight thing actually bugs me a bit because couldn't get our cash back. Cash is sitting in a travel bank, as they call it, which they'll hold the funds, giving us the opportunity to schedule another flight sometime within the next 18 months. But it is what it is. So that and just the fact that you really can't go anywhere. It doesn't make sense to go anywhere. I'm not really enamored with the idea of covering my face. So just been home, taking care of things that have lingered for a while, I guess you could say. So this past weekend, really productive in that regard. Got a lot done, which getting that a lot done has given me more ideas for other stuff to get done. But let's get into what I did over this past weekend. When you take a look at home internet, here's a look at what you will typically find. Of course, you have the internet, Verizon in my case, but it could be Comcast or Cox or whatever your regional provider is. From there, you move into the home and you'll have a router of some sort, something from Linksys or Belkin or Netgear or the usual suspects. And then behind the router, you may have one or more computers, depending upon how elaborate your setup is. I evolved from this model quite some time ago, implementing something a bit more robust. I had a PC, but this PC was somewhat special in that I had installed a Linux operating system and proceeded with running a virtualization layer. And on top of that virtualization layer, I had a product known as pfSense, which is a business-grade firewall solution for moving packets securely in and out of the network. The other thing I should say about the particular PC that I built for this function is that I added a couple of server or business-grade network interfaces, each of which contained 4 ports for connecting the network, giving me a total of 9 ports in this particular machine to do what I needed to do from an internet routing standpoint. I also have 4 network switches in the home that directly connect to this device. Now, this past weekend, I should say over the course of the past couple of weeks, I've been changing this model quite a bit. The server that you see here, I recently replaced with a device called a Dream Machine Pro from Ubiquity Networks. It also has 9 ports of internet capability with some super slick software for managing the environment. I've also replaced those 4 switches, turns out they're Cisco switches, replaced them or am in the process of replacing them with switching solutions, also from Ubiquiti Networks, that integrate nicely with the overall platform that they've come up with from a software perspective. Now, let's get to the heart of what I did over the weekend. What I realized is, even in this fairly sophisticated setup, there were some pretty significant points of failure, single points of failure. I should go back a second. And when you talk about the typical home environment, this routing solution does more than move packets in and out of the network. It also performs a few functions critical to providing internet access, one of which is known as DHCP. This is where internet or IP addresses are given out to each of the machines on the network. This will also perform a function called name resolution, or DNS forwarding, so that when these machines, for example, type in something like www.msnbc.com, this device, in conjunction with servers on the internet, are able to translate that human readable name into a number, which is ultimately resolved on the public internet. So a pretty significant single point of failure in and of itself. Now we'll fast forward again to my adventures over the weekend. Now I evolved from having this device perform all of those functions and spreading out some of the critical ones into virtual machines in the network. And in this video, I won't get into the details of how I designed that or what they were running on, but it's fairly complex. Maybe in another video, I'll go into more detail there, but suffice it to say, I had separated DHCP and DNS out into additional machines, which has worked well over the years. But I've always had my eye on making these functions in and of themselves resilient within the home. Having deployed so many smart home devices, even outside of the internet, having a functioning network inside the home is critical in support of having these smart home devices function the way that they need to function. So resiliency in network infrastructure is pretty important. So with that in mind, what I did over the weekend was take the DHCP service and create another instance of it, and then divide the address space almost in half. I think it's about 25% of the address space on one server, another 25% on the other. And then similarly for DNS services, that name resolution function that I mentioned, also splitting that out into another instance. So we can survive a multitude of failures within the home and still have smart home functionality work in the manner that we need it to work. This routing device, again, a bit of a single point of failure, although it does support multi-ISP functionality. So I can have Verizon and Comcast come into this device, and if either of those providers go down, it'll still be able to facilitate services for the home. But yeah, that's what I did over the weekend. It's a pretty cool experience and has sparked some additional ideas, which I will get into a little bit now. So I briefly mentioned the work over the weekend inspiring a desire to change some other things. So you're looking at, let's call it the core of the network. I've got 3 or 4 8-port switches up there. My patch panel extended. We had two events here at the house where we had some low voltage cable run. So I want to get this cleaned up. This is absolutely a mess. It looks terrible, and enough is enough. So I have some equipment coming in that'll help me resolve that, including some more reasonably length cables. And then I'm going to get rid of those little Cisco switches and replace them with something more aesthetically pleasing and with more capacity, on the order of this. So these are devices from Ubiquity Networks. We've got a 16-port switch here. I'm actually going to get 2 24-port switches and put them up under the patch panel. This one, along with the Dream Machine Pro, I'm going to build a little structure right about in this area and place those on their sides, very much like they are now, on that device, probably a wooden plank of some sort, and just take a 3-foot cable and cable them up this way. But yeah, that will be fabulous. I think I should have all the equipment in by the weekend. So yeah, another fun weekend on tap. And so that'll wrap it up for this particular video. I hope you found it informative and maybe even inspirational. I don't know what your networking situation is at home, but maybe this inspires you to make some improvements on your own. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for post notifications anytime I post a new video. You will see me in the next one.